We must walk the talk.
You have given a vote of no confidence to the administration of Ahmed Bola Tinubu, telling him to his face that Tinubu has not done much to deserve the commendation of the Nigerian people, by saying and asserting that we must walk the talk, which simply implies that you have been talking but not walking the talk. It is in good faith that you make these submissions, and Nigerians have got the message very clearly. We must walk the talk. It is not just about promises and propagandas being sponsored, engineered, and strategically position people to speak the talk without walking the talk.
Giving you rating. And the fact that you have been able to improve the economy, there's growth despite the world's recession.
You have provoked me at this point. You said there is growth despite the world recession. How do you measure growth? What are the indices? What are the factors that drives growth and economic vitality? Reviving the economy. In fact, it is an insult on Nigerians. I wouldn't accept this insult. It is beyond something that could be condoned. So with due respect, you are not telling Nigerians the truth. You are not telling yourself the truth. You are not sincere to yourself, and that is quite unfortunate. You said, how do you measure the growth? How does it affect the living standard of an average Nigerian today? How does it impact on the masses of this country? Growth without creation of jobs, growth without living standard and improved living standard. In fact, this is quite ridiculous. It is very shameful at this time. I must be frantic and very straight to the point. You have insulted not just the intelligence of Nigerians, but the intelligence of your listeners, saying there is growth where multinationals are leaving the shores of this country, where insecurity have devastated the economic and societal activities, where people are living, millions of people, tens of millions of people are living in IDPs. How do you measure the growth? Is it a negative growth? Of course, I will agree with you if that is the case. The expansion of Boko Haram, terrorism, and the rest of them is astronomically at increase. If you mean a negative growth, that more Nigerians are plunging into poverty, into frustration, into crime and criminality. How do you measure this growth? Is it a negative growth or a growth that has correlation in terms of impact, positive impact, creativity, productivity on the Nigerian people? It is quite saddened that the Senate president could stoop too low to accept lies and propagate such lies to his audience, while Nigerians are sinking in poverty. By World Bank projection that 2027 more Nigerians will sink into poverty. Now, if that is the case, who told you? How do you get the indices, the indication that there is growth, a measure of growth, positive growth in Nigeria? I am saddened by this disappointment from you. With due respect, sir.
And today we have the social media. One small ant that enters into your trouser can cause you so much discomfort that you will jump up and down.
Thank you, Mr. Senate President, for the right choice of words. Indeed, the administration of Ahmed Bola Tinubu, which you happens to be the president of the 10th Senate Assembly, has caused Nigerians so much discomfort, so much pain, so much agony. Not just an ant entering into the Nigerian clothes, something bigger than a monster is eating deeply the very existence, the very fabric of Nigerian existence. The Tinubu administration, unfortunately, has worsened the economic state of the average Nigerian families could no longer afford a balanced meal in a day. And Nigerians are taking luxury in eating in dustbins. Unfortunately, that is the sad reality. It is not just discomfort that makes you jump up and down, but Nigerians' hope has been dashed, even in the midst of the renewed hope. It is not just a discomfort that makes you go to bed sleepless, but thinking about a future that had been ruined. It is more devastating, more worrisome that the current politicians of today are not thinking about that. But perhaps because they are not there to serve the masses. But that is the sad reality.
Reports we get from even the World Bank, the IMF, talking about the fact that Nigeria has moved from B minus to B. That is IMF.
You are very honest. You said that was IMF, but not Nigerian position regarding the economy. You said IMF said Nigeria's economy is growing, but you said that was what IMF, the World Bank, said, but it does not correlate with the current realities. Hunger, hardships, sufferings, supplications, depressions. Nigerians are going into depression because of economic disaster, economic misnomer that is going on, that it is hardly for Nigerians to feed themselves. A balanced diet is becoming almost an impossible task for millions of Nigerians' households. You are right, sir. Of course, by saving us further argument, by saying that was what the World Bank said and not what is in tandem with the current realities on ground.
All the things we are saying now, the stability of the country. A senator confided in me that now in his community he can sleep with 3 eyes closed.
A senator, your colleague, confided on you that in his community they cannot sleep with their 3 eyes closed, which means is a fallacy of fact, the fallacy of the realities. Now, how could Nigerian, an average Nigerian today, in this current insecurity rocking the entire country, which you admitted that here and there are sporadic terrorist attacks, not just in a particular region. Here and there implies from the north to the south, everywhere is being bamboozled by the terrorists. What does that mean? That Tinubu has failed, of course, to protect the Nigerian citizens and the property of the Nigerian populace, which is the primary responsibility of any responsible government. You pointed out clearly that indeed you are just being sarcastic. That's pointing out to the president that the 3 eye means things are not normal. Of course, there is abnormality, there is state of emergency, which most governors of the eastern and northern region has also raised alarm. Makinde of the southwestern region raised alarm of the imminent potential danger looming. Of course, of recent, Ekiti and Kogi states, where some Christian communities were being, of course, on the spot at alerts because of a possible attack. You have said well, because Nigerians, senators sleeping with their 3 eyes closed means there is something fundamentally wrong, and you have indirectly communicated to Mr. President there is need to declare state of emergency on the state of insecurity. Kudos to you again.
And that in the last 5 years, he had not visited his community because of insecurity. So despite the sporadic terrorist attacks here and there by your enemies and our enemies and enemies of Nigeria, you have done very well.
In your final submission, you just make a political submission. You have done well implies nothing. If you have done well and you could not point out 1 or 2 things what he has done for Nigerians to see, it means you are losing the battle. And of course, Nigeria has the scorecard, and possibly 2027 might decide otherwise, because you have not been able to convince them, as you rightly advise His Excellency Ahmed Bola Tinubu, that not just talking, but walk the talking. Well, perhaps he could reason this deeply and understood that indeed he has fell below expectation, and possibly might have a rethink if he considers that with his cabinet members or other appointees in his government, Nigerians are expecting more from them. Unfortunately, has not gotten any. It was a total disappointment, and you have raised these concerns, making an affirming that Boko Haram are in control of certain regions and territories of the Nigerian state, and of course unleashing mayhem not just on defenseless civilians but on armed, trained Nigerian military. Army base, army barracks are being rounded up and blown up, ammunition is being carted away. You use the word sporadic attacks here and there means almost every region or part of this country is under siege or threat of terror. It is quite unfortunate. Thank you, Mr. Senate President, for alerting Nigerians and bringing that to the consciousness of the world, what is happening in Nigeria. Well, let me have your own take and reaction regarding this update and analysis of what transpired, of course, in the recently concluded conviction of the APC, as people has lost confidence in the administration of not just APC, because you cited 5 years ago he could not go to his home country, implying an indictment to the APC political party, because 5 years ago APC was still in power, which means you have destroyed virtually everything that represents dignity, honor, and prestige of the Nigerian people. If you cannot go home, it means APC was in charge and could not protect or guarantee the safety of Nigerians, regardless of wherever they are. Today, the reality is speaking for itself. Let's have your own take regarding this development on what, of course, is your own perspective on this update. Thanks for watching.